Hey there! We're about to pull back the curtain on a piece of technology you're using literally every second you're online, but you probably never even see it. It's incredibly powerful, it's absolutely essential, and well, it's become a massive target for cyber attacks. So let's get into it and see what's really going on. So just think about it for a second. How does your food delivery app know exactly what's on the restaurant's menu right now? Or how does your travel app pull flight info from a dozen different airlines all at once? It kind of feels like magic, right? But it's all thanks to one crucial and pretty much invisible ingredient. And that secret ingredient is the API, or Application Programming Interface. Honestly, the best way to wrap your head around an API is to think of it like a waiter at a restaurant. You don't just walk into the kitchen yourself, right? No, you give your order to the waiter, that waiter takes your request to the kitchen, and then brings the food back out to you. APIs do that exact same thing, but for software. They let different apps talk to each other, share data, and basically work together seamlessly. Now, here's where things get a little scary. This number, according to some pretty serious research from F5, a staggering 90% of all web-based cyber attacks are now aimed directly at these APIs. So why is that? Well, attackers know that traditional security is kind of like having a bouncer at the front door. But APIs, they're the waiters who have direct access to the kitchen. If you can compromise the waiter, you can steal data, you can mess up the service, you can poison the whole meal for everyone. And that's no exaggeration. Our entire digital economy really does run on this invisible connective tissue. You see, modern apps are built using something called a microservices architecture. So instead of one giant, clunky program, apps are broken down into tiny, independent services, one piece for logins, another for the shopping cart, and so on. And guess what connects all those little pieces? You got it, APIs. From the apps on your phone to the rise of AI, they are the fundamental building blocks. And you can just see here how widespread they really are. Every time you tap Buy Now on a shopping app, an API is talking to a payment gateway to handle your money. When your fitness tracker syncs your steps to your phone, that's an API making that connection. When your bank securely shares data with your new budgeting app, that's an API too. Even the big AI services we all hear about, like ChatGPT, they completely depend on APIs to work. They're everywhere, and they're handling our most sensitive data.
Okay, but with this explosion of APIs, a huge problem has popped up: the shadow attack surface. Because developers are building and launching new services so fast, countless APIs get created that the security teams don't even know exist. And this creates a massive, unmonitored, and totally unprotected battlefield for attackers to just have a field day.
And inside this shadow world, there are two types of rogue APIs that are especially dangerous. First up, you've got shadow APIs. These are the unknown and unprotected ones. Maybe a developer spun one up for a quick test, but it never got properly documented or secured. Then you've got zombie APIs. These are the old and forgotten ones, like previous versions of an API that were never shut down. They just hang around, unmonitored, unpatched, basically just waiting for an attacker to stumble upon them. So how are attackers actually using these things? Well, it's a mix of old tricks and new ones. They can hit them with standard vulnerability exploits, sure, but they also do these clever business logic attacks. That's where they use the API exactly how it was designed, but for something evil. Like, imagine adding an item to your cart and then changing the price to 1 penny before you check out. They also use automated bots to just stuff thousands of stolen passwords into login APIs, or they launch denial-of-service attacks to just overwhelm them. But the real kicker? One of the biggest threats, according to OWASP, they're the leading nonprofit for this stuff, is simply not knowing what APIs you have in the first place. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more complicated, in comes AI. Artificial intelligence is a total game changer for API security, but it's a powerful double-edged sword. It's giving incredible new tools to both the people trying to protect these systems and the people trying to break them. It's really become this high-tech tug-of-war. On the offense, attackers are using AI to automatically scan for those forgotten zombie APIs, or to find tiny little flaws in business logic at a scale no human team could ever match. But on the flip side, the defenders are using AI to analyze billions of API calls, instantly spotting weird behavior that might be an attack, and even automatically creating new security rules to block it on the fly. Okay, so with this crazy high-stakes battlefield in mind, how does anyone actually build a digital fortress to protect their APIs? It's not about finding one magic tool. It's all about having a clear, multi-layered strategy. And it all starts with this. This is the fundamental truth of cybersecurity. This quote right here is the absolute cornerstone of any API security strategy. If you don't have a complete list of every single API in your environment, the good, the bad, and the forgotten, you are completely flying blind. Visibility is step 0.
So how do you turn that core idea into a real strategy? Well, it breaks down into 4 key steps. First, you have to discover. You need tools that are constantly scanning your systems to find and document every single API. Second, you govern. This means setting clear rules for how APIs are built and secured. Third, you work with the community. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. You can lean on the incredible open source knowledge out there, like from OWASP. And finally, you select the right controls, the actual tools that can detect threats and enforce your policies in real time.
And when it comes to understanding the specific risks you need to guard against, there's really only one definitive guide: the OWASP Top 10 API Security Risks. This list is the gold standard for developers and security pros. It breaks down the most critical vulnerabilities, like broken authentication that could let an attacker pretend to be someone else, or unrestricted access that lets them see data they absolutely shouldn't. This is the playbook for API defense. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground, from the threats to the strategies, so let's boil all of this down to a few core rules for building that digital fortress we were talking about. These are the most important, actionable things to remember. So let's just hit the most crucial best practices. First, and I can't say this enough, you have to discover and document everything. You need total visibility. Second, encrypt all data when it's moving back and forth, no exceptions. Third, you need strong authentication and authorization. That means knowing exactly who is making a request and what they're actually allowed to do. And finally, security can't just be something you tack on at the end. It has to be baked in from the very first line of code and stay there all the way into production. And that really brings us to our final thought. APIs are like the invisible threads weaving our digital world together. They connect our finances, our health data, our social lives, our businesses. They give us all this incredible convenience and innovation, but they also represent a kind of digital trust fall. We're just trusting that these connections are secure. So the question I'll leave you with is this. In this deeply interconnected world, how sure are you, really, about the security of the connections you rely on every single day?